Hello and welcome to Gamers Table, a discussion of tabletop role-playing games and other topics related to the gamer subculture. Be warned, this show may contain some explicit material that may not be suitable for all audiences.
Hello and welcome to Gamers Table. My name is Eric.
This is Mike.
This is Mark. This is Dan.
This is Shannon.
This is Dave.
This is Jason.
Not the same.
And I'm Sean. Wow.
This episode we're going to talk about generational campaigns.
Dan's favorite.
Yes,
Yay.
This is all for Dan. Yay, Dan.
Why
Dan
not show
wins.
up this week?
Dan wins.
Yeah.
No, what that means is, and then we've talked about it, or at least alluded to it a few times, and it's where you take characters from a previous campaign and you integrate them either as NPCs driving or being plot devices in the next campaign, or just as ancestors of the current campaign.
Right.
It's something that we've done before. Dan, you don't like it, but why don't you like that? That's what I've always wondered that.
So you travel back in time to like when you first start gaming. For me, that was with you guys, right?
Right.
And then I see it again whenever I start running the shop. There's a consistency when people do this. It's more often than not, it has very little to do with story or anything like that. It's so you can gain an advantage in your new game.
How so?
Oh, it was my father's sword, so now it's my sword, and I have access to the wealth or the contacts. It's a lot of the reason why I don't even like playing Greyhawk with you guys, because you know too much about the world. So whenever you play with characters that you've already played with,
right,
and you're incorporating all this other knowledge, to me, it just waters down the game.
So it's a matter
of... why stop playing that other game if you are just going to kind of grandfather all these ideas back in?
It's because Mike thinks we get too powerful if we're above level 5.
Damn it!
So you're saying it's partially meta knowledge.
Yeah, very much meta knowledge.
Okay.
And me, I mean, y'all know I want to do a new thing. If I've played this campaign and I have this guy and we're done, I'm done with that guy. I don't care about doing it anymore.
Okay.
You know?
All right. And now on the flip side of that, Jason.
So now you guys can run and tell you about how great it is. I'm out. Mic drop.
On the flip side of that, though, Jason, you like to do things like this. What makes it appealing to you?
It may be a little too much.
Consistency.
Yeah.
Continuity.
Okay.
That there is a history there. If you look at any campaign world, everybody has the same basic information at their fingertips.
Right.
All you got to do is look at the book. Okay. But if you've played in that campaign world for a number of years, you've played many characters, maybe characters that are related to one another, you know, the son of this character or my character. The character I'm playing now works for the character that I played or worked for the character that, say, Mike played or whoever.
Right.
You know, there's a history there that you're intimately familiar with. It kind of binds everything together, and I don't think we've played the same campaign for 30 years straight, or however many years it's been.
Right.
But I think we've played up to a point and then hit the reset button, gone back, you know, to the Greyhawk. Was it 576?
Usually goes with additions.
Basically, Jason, you're saying you like it for all the reasons that Dan doesn't.
Well, the thing about this was my father's sword. I've never made a character that had another previous character's magical weapons or items or armor or anything like that.
I've tried that before.
You've tried that?
Yeah.
Leave it to Mike.
In
When did you do that?
Shadowrun.
Oh, okay.
Let me try to poke some holes in Dan's theory. I'm pretty sure when you do a role-playing game with any extensive storyline, you're kind of reenacting it's like doing a TV show or a movie or something like that. So I'm pretty sure Dan does not watch movies that only have that do not have sequels. You see what I'm saying? Or TV shows that only last one season. I'm pretty sure he doesn't do that. Now, on the other hand, I agree with the part where he says it's an advantage if you try to, hand down items from one character to another.
It definitely would be. I agree with that.
But I think the advantage inherent to that is you spent a lot of time on that history, and the main advantage should be the fact that you have a built-in backstory for at the very start for your new character, which is a huge advantage over just making a character out of thin air and trying to have a backstory that's going to work. I mean, how many people here are usually timid even to make a new character or a backstory or whatnot? Whereas if you say, well, the second generation character, backstory's already made for you.
See, right. And I don't care about backstories either for predominantly the exact same reason. Perfect example, Eric's Araxo Titan. from our Sea Princess campaign. Because of your backstory, you gained an advantage within game.
That's true.
You, right out of the gate, you are a higher rank on the ship.
But that also had nothing to do with any previous characters, though.
No, but talking to Mike, backstory. You're talking about backstories at that point. I mean, that's why I don't care about backstories.
Nah, I don't believe that you don't care about backstories.
Who else had a backstory in that campaign?
Do what?
Who else had a backstory?
I had a very brief one.
I had one. You don't have a backstory
We've
for
basically
any?
No, I don't care about backstory.
We've basically been trained not to have a backstory.
Yes, Mike.
Once you've got a backstory, you're dead.
Well, being new to gaming, I would say that I think it all depends on how it's applied and whether or not it's abused. I mean, if you're going to come in and you're going to say, well, this is my father's sword and this has this much powers, or I can sell this for this amount of money and I can use that to gain this because I was given this and inherited it from a character that died 3 years ago in a campaign. Yeah, okay, that's pushing the limits a little bit. But if you come in and you've got a minor backstory that just sort of fleshes your character out, that's not that I don't have a problem with.
They actually built this into Star Wars, and they carried it over into the Star Wars MMO. In Star Wars, there was a series of books which I didn't read because I didn't read anything after what happened.
The incident.
The incident.
The incident.
It's called Legacy.
Enough said.
Or basically, they had run out of if they'd have continued with the timeline, the stories would have, the characters in the stories would have been so old and decrepit that they wouldn't have been able to do much of anything. So there was the legacy. You were the characters in the stories were the sons and daughters of Luke and Leia and Han and all those folks and other characters that had popped up in the story. And then they put that in the game. It was I think it was basically just a feat. It says, I am the ex-descendant of whoever this person was, and that entitles me to something. And it wasn't necessarily a material kind of thing. Maybe you got like a stat bonus or a skill or some other thing that was really just backstory. So I don't know if you'd end up with like, I have Luke Skywalker's lightsaber. This is the lightsaber that cut off the hand of Darth Vader and therefore does 8d6 damage against cyborgs. I don't think that was the thing. I don't have the book. I think Eric does.
I understand. I understand where Dan's coming from because yes, and kind of like what Dave was saying, if you abuse it, then yes.
There's one last thing I forgot.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, this topic is basically a shitstorm of all the things that I just don't care about. I won't say hate; it's that I don't care about. So we know, because I don't know how often it comes out on the shows, I am not nostalgic.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And when this happens at the table, there's a lot of talk about the stuff that the other guys did.
Absolutely.
As opposed to what are the current guys doing.
Right. Well, when you play in the same campaign world for 35 years, you're going to have a lot of that with the people who've been doing it.
It's Rico talking about throwing the football over that mountain.
And
it's reliving the glory days.
Well, let me take some responsibility for that because I think...
But it's not just here.
No.
This happened with games at the shop that I've seen totally separate. But this is just what people do.
Absolutely.
I think any time, Dan, you've probably played with me, I'll take full responsibility for it. I really will.
As you should.
And I think it's a lot of it's got to do with the fact that my short-term memory is not good. I do forget things really easily. But as someone commented to me today at work, we were talking about stuff that happened in junior high and high school. My memory for things that happened 20, 25, 30, 35 years ago, I mean, I know you guys won't play this, but I can honest to God remember being a toddler in diapers. I swear to God I do.
So can I.
So it's my memory for things in the great past are more readily accessible to me than stuff that happened to me even 5 or 10 years ago. So I don't know if that's because of all the head injuries I've suffered or I don't know. I mean, I have. I've been hit on the head a lot.
Yes,
but
the downside of soccer.
But I'll take
It just
responsibility.
takes a while for the information to sink in.
Well, that could be. But I'll take responsibility for it because...
There's nothing wrong with it.
No, I know.
I know. I just have a count.
And I think I honestly believe this, Dan. I think if you'd been there for those things, I think it would be easier for you to play along and accept those things. I think that's
not necessarily.
I've been gaming with you guys for a long.
I know you have. I know you have. But I think that's the part of it that I think
I'm a
would
flawed person. I don't care about the past.
You said you don't care about nostalgia. I've got enough nostalgia for both of us.
For everybody.
So
yes.
Talking about lineages and backstory and things like that, I understand what you're saying, Dan. Like I said before, and what Dave you were saying about the using it to advantage. But if it makes your character a richer character, I think that it's a good thing. The best example, putting a story into a role playing sense. Let's say you're playing a character who did all these great things and overthrew a king and did all this great stuff, and then was killed and murdered, and then you play that character's descendant trying to avenge the death of the family, whatnot.
Sure.
What I'm talking about is Game of Thrones,
Right.
the Stark family. If you played Ned Stark and then get killed, and then you play Arya, that's playing a lineage, and that makes your next character's motivation that much stronger.
Well,
Because,
spoiler alert, by the way. Ned
Oh,
dies.
wait, whoa, whoa, whoa.
yes,
If they don't
nobody,
know that Ned dies by now, then there's nothing we can do for him.
right?
Wow.
But I mean, that's the idealized
An
sense of it.
avenue.
I just thought that Dave has not yet
Oh,
watched
no.
the Game of Thrones season 1 that I
I'm pretty
loaned
sure
him
if you haven't.
No, I have not.
If you haven't
No, I
by
have
now,
not.
then you don't care.
I don't care. Yeah, at this point, yeah.
Hey,
It's,
up top for not caring. How?
Wow.
I've heard so much. I feel like I've already watched it and I haven't. So
But the point is that turning it into a story opportunity is the best way to do it. But using it to gain an advantage over everybody else, like with the Sea Prince's example that you gave, it did in a way give my character more of an advantage. But I wrote a pretty lengthy backstory, and I think in a way Mike could have ran with it, or he could have just said no.
Sure. But you knowing the situation, you know that that's probably not going to be the case.
Right.
He was actually just doing that intentionally because, Eric's a power gaming douchebag.
She's come a long way.
So it didn't take her long to figure it out.
how you guys have
The only-
corrupted her.
The only time I can remember that I did that, I may have done it again another time, as made a legacy character, is when I made my elven swashbuckler, who was the son of my epic level character.
Right.
And his whole motivation was that he was angry and hacked off and a little bit crazy because his father was a hugely famous bard, but he never got to actually know him.
And never will.
And never will because he's in another dimension.
That's right.
I think it all depends on.
You're wrong.
I think it all depends on what your intentions are with it, whether it sucks or not. If your intention is oh, I want all this crap and all this knowledge and all this stuff, then it's useless. It's dumb.
I can remember people
if
doing that
you're
too.
just
Also at the shop, at a different shop.
But if you're just oh, I want to give my character a history, or vice versa, I want to give my old character kind of a future. I can understand that. After we finished our World War II campaign, Jason and I sat there and we made family trees.
I was very disappointed in you.
I was very disappointed.
You knew I was going to succumb to that.
I know.
I like that. It's oh, Sissy didn't just,
Evaporate.
Yeah, she has this future. This stuff happened.
It was your first real game. I mean,
Yeah.
you guys have gone back and you're playing the
You always remember your first time.
real game again now, aren't you?
Yeah.
When I'm not here,
Yeah, I'm playing Ivy.
Right.
Again.
Yeah.
but your Museum Masterminds, that World War II campaign was your first game. Your every other game you play is going to be stacked up against that one.
Yeah.
That's true.
Well, and let me say this: I think that there is a certain element of the reason that I game is because I like the creative process of it. The imagination that goes into it of just making up a world, making up a character right there in your head, right there on the table, and going for it. And for me, I know that there are some people out there that rely way too heavily on going back and I'm going to use this character from this, and this is going to be their father, and they just always do that. Part of the fun of it is making up something new every time.
Right.
Doing something different every time and, really pushing that.
Just noticing something about myself 2 Mondays ago. We were playing a totally new game that Woodside brought because Mike wasn't there.
Iron Kingdoms.
Iron Kingdoms, yes. I came up with a character, and then I had a voice for the character, and then I stayed in character whenever I would interact with everybody else.
Was it Russian?
No.
British? Irish.
I made a...
Celtic.
he was a troll, I think.
Was he a no-nonsense asshole?
No, that's just Mark.
Yeah, that's just me playing myself. For some reason, I had a flash of the old Monty Python bit where the giant hedgehog was looking for the other guy. Dinsdale, that one. And I said Dinsdale like that. And then, boom, I had the character. And that's how I talked for the whole rest of the game. But I would only talk to Greg, who, after that, decided to name his character Dinsdale. The whole new game, new character, new everything really made me want to play in character. It was like, the actual plays are the only times I've really played in character anymore, or ever, come to think of it. But I've done a few one-offs with Greg when his buddy